Hey guys, this is Rob from Sirion, the keyboardist. I take care of all the tech stuff, and I wanted to make a video today about our live show automation. I heard about a lot of bands doing the whole like DAW live thing, like where they have like a bunch of MIDI stuff going on as well as backing tracks. If they don't have a keyboardist or something, and they'll have like all their MIDI capable modules controlled through a session that runs through their song. And I haven't really found a lot of information online on how to set that up, so I decided to dive into it myself. Luckily, I happen to have the same program that 99% of them use, which is Cubase, and I was able to just kind of take it from there. Real quick, I am sitting in my new studio. Let me see if I can get a little turn here. There's a nice window, and we have a separate room over there where the actual musician would sit. But I did quit my job late last year and decided to open up my own business here in Burbank. So what we do here is we repair all kinds of instruments as well as recording and soon music lessons. We're trying to get both of those things up and running first before we focus on the lessons, but we pretty much do everything music related here, and if you need anything, please give us a call. The studio itself is not ran by me, even though I own it. It's ran by Chris Lucas. I'll put a link to his channel in the description. He's really good, really amazing at what he does. He did the Sirion EP, and he did such a phenomenal job that I just look no further for anything. If I need anyone for anything, it's always Chris. He's my go-to guy for this stuff, so it was just very simple decision on who was going to run this studio for me. And I'm really excited to have him on board. And if you guys listen to his stuff, I guarantee you'll want to be here. The prices are reasonable, and if you want to book him, just go to rosensound.com, give us a call, and we'll get you booked up. Other than that, let's dive right into this. First of all, we're using Cubase 7.5. A lot of the guys I see do this use Cubase 6 or Cubase 6.5. A lot of these guys were talking about this before 7 even came out, so I hope that they upgraded. If not, it's probably for stability. But I can say that Cubase 7 and 7.5 have never really crashed on me, in any realistic scenario. They're really good. The plugins that it comes with are really good. So if you want to accomplish anything, you need any fancy plugins, chances are it's got something built in that'll be really stable. That'll really work for what you're doing, for all intents and purposes. You're not mixing a master, golden record here for your live show. You're just doing your live show. So it really works out for that. So in terms of setting this thing up, let's go into that. So first of all, let's look at the session. Let's look at what tracks we have. So the first thing you'll see is that we have a track called tracks with a lot of exclamation marks. So why is that? Well, I wanted to make sure that my drummer knew that this track he should not mess with, because if he messes with this track, things could go bad. I also have these locks on the track. Usually I turn them off for this video, where all these tracks would be literally muted, and we would also have the actual mute on, but the actual events themselves would also be muted to ensure that nothing unexpected happens live. Other than that, we have the guitar effects. We'll get into that soon. We have the MIDI click track and the click audio track. Both of those serve completely different purposes. We're going to mute this for right now, and we'll talk about what both of those do in just a minute. So setting up, you're going to want to set this up with your drummer. That's first and foremost. He's going to be controlling this, at least intelligently. That's how it should be. If your drummer is the backbone of your set, you want your drummer to be a big part of how you're doing this. So you don't want to confuse him at all. Next thing is the click. You have to use a click, and at that, you have to use an accented click. If your drummer wants to get a little bit off time, it's not going to work. He needs to practice with a metronome with an accent. If you have any signature changes or tempo changes, he needs to account for those, and you need to get that set up now. Print him a click track, which is what these are, and I'll explain what those are more in detail in a little bit. But no excuses. Okay. Next thing is the arranger track. At first we were using the marker track. It's kind of irrelevant now. It's a good placeholder to know where things are. Other than that, we decided to use the arranger track because it was a little more simple to rearrange things if we wanted to create a nice set list. The marker track, what we were doing is just clicking here, and it would locate to their appropriate place, but that would mean a lot of clicking. But when over here, it just goes the whole set. It ends right here, and then it goes to the next one, whichever is in order. And this order here is not the same as this order here, so it's really nice for that reason. and you can take things out of the set list, and it just works. Next thing is rules. You want to make sure you set ground rules for this. You cannot intelligently have different rules. So let's explain what a rule means here. So for example, I have my drummer set up on one rule, that before he's to count us off, he needs to receive 2 bars of click into his ears before counting us off. And I'm trying to think, because that doesn't really make sense when the way I say it to a lot of people. So I'll show you an example. So, I guess I should explain the second part of the rule. If he's not to count us off, he's to get the 2 bars before he's to start playing. So let's go to Howling Dark to the very beginning, and you'll hear that there is slower halftime tempo, and then it goes full time for 2 bars, and then he counts us off. And you'll hear the count off in the live track that we have here. So let's listen. So it's at halftime right now. So if you missed that, too bad. Go back and look again. So he got 2 bars of full-time tempo that he's aware of, the tempo that he wants to hear the rest of the song, before he counts us off. We have the same rule here where he wouldn't count us off. He would just start playing his synth drum on his DTX pad. So let's listen. Sorry, I started at the wrong place. It's supposed to be way back here. So there's no click here. And then he'll suddenly get 2 bars before he's to start playing his synth drum. Does that make sense? I sure hope so. So no matter what, there's a 2-bar rule before he's either to count us off or start playing. And we have it programmed accordingly. I'll show you all that. So next thing is devices. If you haven't installed the proper drivers for whatever devices you have, it's time to do that. In this particular case, the only actual device that was being controlled was the Kronos. The Korg Kronos is a wonderful keyboard. It's what I use. It's very flexible, and it has great, patch changing capabilities. It responds to MIDI very well, especially with Cubase. And what I did is I sent system exclusive messages. So the beginning of each song, so symmetrical here, it would go from our intro track, which I'll play for you, into symmetrical, and then this particular little nib right here would send a system exclusive message to my Kronos to go to the set list called symmetrical. And then subsequently, towards the end of the intro, it would send a patch change to the first actual patch in symmetrical, because there's one patch that doesn't do much on the Kronos, and then when I actually start playing is this patch change right here. So on, so forth. For every patch change I have, it'll change the patch for me. It's very convenient. With that said, that's also why the drummer needs to play to an accent, so he knows that he's in time and cannot deviate from that at all, or else I'm going to be messed up. Now that's only for my convenience. Now you may be saying to yourself, okay, well, who cares? You're just a keyboardist. Why are you being selfish if you're a drummer? Well, yeah, it kind of sucks for him, but there's also backing tracks on a lot of these songs, and we prefer to be in time anyway, so he has to follow those rules. I'll get to the backing tracks a little bit later, but say for example you were using a fractal axe effects or something like that, and you want to change the patch to a clean tone, or let's see, you wanted to change the panning of your track, maybe add an effect, change an effect, do some cool effects of your guitar stuff. You could program all that in through MIDI. So at the end of Scary Vacuum, which is a working title, by the way, there's a track under this track. Is this the right one? It is Interstellar. I want Scary Vacuum. There it is. So under this track, there's another track, this is a Stripes main. And what this is doing is turning down one of the faders on my Kronos. Since I'm using both hands, I can't do it. And it mutes one of the patches that only appears in the first chord. So I get some evolving stuff that way. It's really cool. And I couldn't be able to do that without Cubase running. So you can kind of apply that to yourself, whatever you're doing, whether it be a drum module, sample module, or a guitar effect module or something. That's why you need to get your devices set up first. with their own MIDI tracks. What you can do is, connect it in through here. Mine's Kronos isn't connected right now, and then you would just, play back the song, which is why I have these tracks here so I can hear the song, and do everything accordingly. Make all your patch changes in time, or real time control changes. So playback. We already went over why you need a metronome accent, but let's go over how to set up the metronome. So our drummer does not like the cubase click, which I believe is on right now, but not going through, whoopsie, not going through the correct output. So let's put the click through here, through the main outs. Now you'll hear the normal click. You didn't like the beeps. So what you can do in Cubase, I don't know if you can do this in any other DAW, but you can go to the metronome setup, and then you can activate a MIDI click, and you could send this to an instrument. So we set up this instrument here called MIDI click appropriately. That goes to Howling Sonic SE with a tableau program, and we set whatever notes we wanted, and now we're there. And then what you could do is send this through a separate output called click or something. Yeah, see, it's set through the click output, which right now is set to just, the computer speakers, but on my interface it would be set through a separate set of outputs, and that would go to the drummer's earphones. That way no one hears it through the monitors or anything. And then we have the click audio. So why do I have the click audio? The click audio is what I did to bounce out the click, so to speak, so my drummer could practice along to it. So it's just the same tabla click, but actual audio. It's not MIDI, so I could bounce out the whole song with the click, which is what we did for the Interstellar music video, so we were all on time and everything. It's a useful thing to have. It stays muted throughout the actual set, but it's still useful to have. How I did that was I created this audio track and then put the input from like the output. So the input was this output. Cubase is really good about that, so I could set this to go audio out through the click channel that I've set up in the audio VST connections, and then put the input to the click. And that's pretty much it for the click. Make sure you have that right. Other than that, there's a tempo track up here, for the normal click when I was getting everything set up. And okay, we already went over patch changes. I have everything written down. Just trying to go through the list. We already went through patch changes and control changes. Let's go through backing tracks. So, like I said, here we start off with the intro track. So with the arranger track, once this ends, it goes straight into symmetrical. And that's not just because they actually come one after another in the session. That's just the way, no matter what. I could change that to any song with an intro or any song in general, and it would just crossfade between them because of the arranger track. So once we get to the end of this, or sorry, let's not get to the end of that. Let's talk about the guitar effects. Yes, I would talk about that. This particular track, at some parts, has a distorted guitar very low in the mix. It makes it a little heavier. So what I did is I had my guitars along and record over it. And it sounds really cool. So we just layered this guitar on top of this guitar. So we're just a little easier. We have it drowned out and reverb and everything, and it sounds cool. Other than that, let's go further, and you'll hear it. They just fade out into each other. Crossfade. So the patch change, control change. Then you would play the intro. Okay, so let's keep on going. And again, going with rules, we have this thing that we do before Howling Dark where the singer talks, and we also have like a cool patch going on that I just recorded. You hear the tempo change. all the signature changes. There, for some songs there's not a lot, or just really minor stuff, but for some songs there's a lot. Let's go down the list. Trying to find one that has a backing track. I believe we have a backing track in Beyond the Depths. Or actually, let's go to Blackened Skies. So Blackened Skies, what I did to help me out is my drummer complained to me one time that he didn't like that the solo I play ends on a downbeat or in the recording there's another synth playing, and I can obviously hit those notes because I was in the middle of an epic pitch bend. So we have it set up so it'll play that. I just recorded the notes in here and it plays it in time. And it's in these weird time signatures, so he really has to pay attention. So let's listen to that. This is a rough solo, so I actually can't let you listen to that because it's yet to be released. So I'll let you listen to the very end of it. And then I would continue playing that lick for the rest of the time as appropriate. And then another thing we do, since I use two hands for this part, one for a controller and one for the notes, I recorded synth bass under this, as it is in the recording. That's yet to be released again. And it just beefs things up live. See, I have the tape saturation. This squashes it a little bit. And I like it. That's one thing that helps. Let's go to Blackened Skies, and we'll talk about pauses. Pauses are really important, as well as backing tracks. So in Beyond the Depths, in the actual song, I think there's only 2 beats that we do to pause. Let me unlock this track. That snoring is my dog, by the way. She's here with me. So normally it would sound like this. That wasn't a lot of warning, was it? But live, we like to do things a little bit differently. What we like to do live is put this awesome pause right there to make people think that the song ends, and it didn't. So you can see here I put a dip in the tempo, halftime, so it's at 300, so we put it down to 150 so the drummer knows that it's pause time, and he gets 8 beats of pause. That's what he chose, and he counts us in on 7 and 8. He doesn't. It's just a 2 count, and then we go back into it. So we extend it that way. Then he goes back to the tempo that he likes, and he has to follow that correctly, or else this at the very end will not work. So we have this awesome orchestral thing at the end. So if he didn't do all this right, this would come in out of time. For obvious reasons, that's not good, because we have Chris doing our live set, and he knows when things are supposed to be louder. He'll make that louder, and it won't sound right. We also have, far off in the session, these other things, like we use this while we're tuning. And we can just leave this running, and at the end, it'll just go into the next song. So let's see, after this is Blackened Skies. And, we know when it fades out, it's time to go on Blackened Skies. Yep. And we also have the Lightsaber song, which is just Duel to Fates. A little cut up, to be honest, but it's there. Sorry if you hear any clicks and pops. That's because of it's having a core audio fight with ScreenFlow, the program I'm using to do this video. Other than that, let me think if there's anything else that really deserves mention. No, not really. That's pretty much it. Take it as you will. Do what you got to do. If you have any questions, shoot me an email or a message. Please not on YouTube. Go to my website, rosensound.com. Shoot me a message and I'll answer it. If you need any help with it, conversely, just let me know. Be happy to help.